Have you ever found yourself thinking about love again, but questioning whether remarriage is the right move? When you're over 60, falling in love feels completely different than it did decades ago. And there are some hard truths that many people don't discover until they're already walking down the aisle. Whether you've been enjoying single life, recently went through a divorce, or lost a beloved spouse, remarriage at this stage brings unique complications that can impact everything from your bank account to your family relationships in ways you never saw coming. Today, we're diving into 5 critical realities you absolutely must understand before saying "I do" again after 60. These insights could completely transform how you think about love, commitment, and your future security during these golden years. Too many people jump into remarriage with their hearts leading the way, only to find themselves dealing with stress and problems they never anticipated. But when you're armed with the right information, you can make a decision that truly serves you, one that brings joy, peace, and stability instead of chaos. Make sure you stick around until the very end, because understanding these 5 realities could save you from serious heartbreak and ensure that any relationship you choose to pursue is genuinely the right fit for this chapter of your life. Whether you're already planning a wedding or just wondering what's possible, you need to hear this. Let's jump right in. The first reality that catches people completely off guard is how drastically your financial picture changes when you remarry after 60. Most people think getting married again is purely about finding love and companionship, but the truth is, marriage creates a whole new set of legal and financial obligations. If you're not prepared, it can mess with your retirement funds, social security payments, pension benefits, and even the inheritance you plan to leave your children. The last thing you want is to walk into marriage thinking it'll make your life simpler, only to discover later that you've created a financial mess you never expected. Here's something that shocks a lot of people. If you're currently receiving Social Security benefits based on your ex-spouse's work history, those payments might get cut or completely disappear the moment you remarry. This can be devastating, especially if you're counting on that income to pay your bills and maintain your lifestyle. On top of that, many pension plans and survivor benefits have strict rules that get voided when you tie the knot again. If either you or your future spouse receives pension payments, you absolutely need to read the fine print before making any commitments. But Social Security and pensions are just the beginning. When you get married, your financial life is no longer just about you. Now you're dealing with someone else's assets, debts, and spending patterns. Even if you decide to keep separate checking accounts, state laws might still affect how your property gets divided if you divorce or when one of you passes away. And if you have kids or grandkids, you better believe remarriage can completely change their inheritance. Many people assume they can just leave their money and property to their children, like they always planned. But marriage often gives your new spouse legal rights to your assets that could leave your kids with much less than you intended. Consider what happened to Robert, a 72-year-old widower who remarried thinking everything would stay the same for his children. After the wedding, he discovered that his new wife now had legal claims to his estate, which meant his kids might inherit significantly less than he'd promised them. He had to go through complicated legal processes and have some tough conversations to make sure everyone he loved was protected. If remarriage is on your mind, do yourself a favor and sit down with a financial advisor or estate planning attorney before you do anything else. You need to understand exactly how marriage will affect your money, your retirement, and anything you want to pass down to your loved ones. These conversations might not feel romantic, but they're absolutely essential for protecting your future. The second reality that blindsides people is how complicated family relationships become when you remarry later in life. You're not just combining 2 people, you're trying to blend entire families with their own histories, traditions, and expectations. While love might bring you and your partner together, family dynamics can create problems you never saw coming. Unlike young couples who are starting fresh and building everything from scratch, people over 60 usually bring adult children, grandchildren, and decades of established family patterns into their new marriage. These relationships don't always mesh together as smoothly as you'd hope. One of the biggest challenges is how your grown children react to your new relationship. Even when they genuinely want you to be happy, they might struggle with feeling disloyal to your previous spouse, or worry about how this new person will affect family traditions, finances, or their inheritance. Some might welcome your new partner with open arms, while others might feel angry, suspicious, or genuinely concerned about your well-being. These feelings are completely normal, but if you don't handle them carefully, they can create permanent damage that affects not just your marriage, but your entire family. Your relationship with grandchildren can shift too. If you've been the main grandparent in their lives for years, bringing in a new spouse can feel disruptive to them. Some might adapt quickly, while others need time to figure out where this new person fits. The same thing happens with your new spouse's family. If they have their own children and grandchildren, blending everyone's traditions and expectations takes serious patience and understanding. Another issue that comes up constantly is how remarriage affects inheritance and financial planning. It's not unusual for children to worry that a new spouse might change existing wills, alter financial plans, or end up with money they assumed was meant for them. While money might not be what your new relationship is about, it's often a major concern for family members. Sometimes conflicts happen not because people are greedy, but because children want to make sure their parents' legacy gets honored the way it was originally intended. Take Susan's story. At 68, she remarried after being single for over 10 years. She expected her children to be thrilled for her, but instead found herself dealing with uncomfortable conversations about inheritance, holiday traditions, and even where she was going to live. Even though she knew her kids loved her, she quickly learned that her new marriage required honest discussions and reassurances to keep peace in the family. If you're thinking about remarriage, make time to talk openly with your family. Be honest about your plans, listen to their concerns, and set clear expectations about what will and won't change. It might take time for everyone to adjust, but addressing these issues early can prevent misunderstandings and resentment later. The key is approaching these conversations with patience, honesty, and reassurance that your decision is about finding companionship while still treasuring the relationships you've built over the years. If you're still with me and finding this helpful, drop a comment with the number 2 to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos. Your support helps us keep creating content to inform and inspire you. Now, let's keep going. The third reality is that emotional expectations are completely different at this stage of life. Relationships look nothing like they did when you were younger. Back then, marriage was often about building a life together, raising kids, buying your first home, and growing your careers. But after 60, your priorities shift dramatically. Marriage isn't about starting from zero anymore. It's about companionship, emotional support, and maintaining your independence while sharing your life with someone special. This change in what marriage means is something many people don't fully think through before remarrying, and it can lead to some serious surprises. One of the biggest differences is how much independence each person brings into the marriage. By the time you hit your 60s, 70s, or beyond, you've already created routines, habits, and a lifestyle that works for you. You probably have your own home, personal hobbies, and a daily routine that makes you feel comfortable and content. A new marriage introduces another person's habits, lifestyle preferences, and expectations into your established world, and that adjustment isn't always easy. Some people expect remarriage to be as simple as finding the right person, but in reality, it requires careful navigation of boundaries, personal space, and individual identity. Unlike younger couples who might be working together to build financial security, later in life marriages often involve two people who are already financially stable and emotionally self-sufficient. This means the reasons for coming together are different. Love, companionship, and shared experiences become more important than external achievements. However, this also means both partners need to be crystal clear about their expectations. How much time do you want to spend together? How do you handle disagreements? How do you maintain personal independence while still nurturing the relationship? Another factor to consider is all the emotional baggage from past experiences. If you've lost a spouse or gone through a difficult divorce, those memories and emotions don't just vanish when you remarry. Both you and your new partner bring decades of history into the relationship. Previous relationships, family connections, and deeply rooted ideas about love and commitment all come along for the ride. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it does mean that being emotionally open, patient, and understanding is absolutely essential. The way you communicate, show affection, or handle disagreements might be heavily influenced by past experiences, and learning how to work through those differences is crucial for a successful second marriage. Consider Harold's experience. At 75, he found love again after being widowed for several years. What he didn't expect was how different this new relationship felt compared to his first marriage. His late wife had been his partner for decades, and the way they operated as a couple was deeply embedded in who he was. His new wife, meanwhile, had been divorced for many years and valued her independence in ways he'd never encountered before. It took time for them to find their rhythm, to balance closeness with personal space, to communicate without constantly comparing to the past, and to fully embrace what made their relationship unique. If you're thinking about remarrying, ask yourself some important questions. What do you really want out of this relationship? Are you looking for companionship without too much disruption to your daily routine? Do you want to share a home, or would you prefer to keep separate living spaces? Are you emotionally ready for the realities of combining two well-established lives? The answers to these questions can help ensure that your next marriage is built on mutual understanding rather than unmet expectations. The fourth reality is that legal considerations matter way more than most people think. Marriage isn't just an emotional commitment, it's a legal contract. When you remarry after 60, the legal aspects of that contract can be far more complicated than they were when you were younger. Many people assume that love alone is enough to make a marriage work, but without understanding the legal implications, you might find yourself facing unexpected consequences that could have been avoided. One of the first things you need to think about is how remarriage affects your estate planning. When you get married, your spouse might automatically gain certain legal rights to your assets, even if you always intended to leave them to your children, grandchildren, or other loved ones. Without a clear plan in place, your estate could end up being divided in ways you never anticipated. This is why many people choose to update their wills or set up trusts before getting remarried, making sure their assets get distributed exactly according to their wishes. Another crucial legal factor is medical decision-making. If you became seriously ill or unable to make decisions for yourself, who would have the right to make medical choices on your behalf? In most cases, a spouse automatically gets priority over adult children or other family members. This can create serious tension, particularly if your new spouse and your children have different opinions about your care. Setting up advance directives or a medical power of attorney can clarify your wishes and prevent potential conflicts before they happen. Prenuptial agreements are another tool that can provide clarity and protection for both partners. While some people hesitate to bring up a prenup because they worry it seems unromantic, the reality is that it can help prevent misunderstandings and ensure that both people are entering the marriage with clear expectations. A well-written prenuptial agreement can outline how assets, debts, and financial responsibilities will be handled, reducing the risk of disputes later on. Take Eleanor's situation, for example. At 67, she fell head over heels in love and was excited about remarrying. But she also had significant assets that she wanted to leave to her children. She and her fiancé had an honest conversation and decided to create a prenuptial agreement that clearly outlined their financial boundaries. This not only gave her peace of mind, but also reassured her children that their inheritance was secure. Legal matters aren't always comfortable to discuss, but they're absolutely necessary. If you're considering remarriage, it's smart to sit down with an attorney who specializes in estate planning and family law. Having these discussions early on can prevent confusion and stress later, allowing you to focus on what truly matters, building a fulfilling and secure relationship. If you're still watching and finding value in this, comment the number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I really recommend hitting that subscribe button and turning on notifications so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating quality content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move to our final point. The fifth and final reality is that the definition of happiness changes as we age. As we get older, what makes us happy shifts in fundamental ways. In our younger years, marriage often represented building a future, raising a family, establishing financial security, or creating a shared life from the ground up. But after 60, happiness isn't about building anymore. It's about maintaining, enjoying, and finding fulfillment in the life you've already created. This means that before you remarry, it's essential to ask yourself a critical question. Does this relationship actually align with the kind of happiness you truly want at this stage of your life? Many people assume that getting married again will automatically bring them joy. But the truth is that happiness in later years comes from very different sources than it once did. For some people, it's about companionship and sharing daily life with someone special. For others, it's about maintaining independence while having a partner for special moments. And for some, it's about preserving their lifestyle and not having to compromise on long-standing routines and habits they've grown to love. The key is understanding what happiness looks like for you right now, not what it meant 30 or 40 years ago. One of the biggest mistakes people make when remarrying after 60 is assuming that love alone will solve loneliness. While companionship is absolutely beautiful, it's important to recognize that personal fulfillment has to come from within. If you aren't genuinely happy on your own, a marriage won't necessarily change that. In fact, entering a marriage with the expectation that it will complete you can lead to serious disappointment, especially if the realities of sharing your life with someone feel more restrictive than you expected. Another thing to seriously consider is lifestyle compatibility. At this stage in life, you probably have very well-established routines. How you spend your mornings, how you like to travel, how you prefer to socialize, even how you manage your daily schedule. If your new partner has a drastically different way of living, it could create constant friction rather than happiness. Some people are spontaneous and love last-minute adventures, while others prefer structure and predictability. Some enjoy quiet evenings at home, while others thrive in social settings and constant activity. If you and your potential spouse aren't naturally aligned in these ways, it's worth thinking seriously about how much you're willing to adjust, or if those adjustments would ultimately make you happier or more stressed. Consider Frank's experience. At 72, he met someone wonderful and quickly remarried, believing that companionship would fill the emptiness he'd felt since his previous marriage ended. But as time went on, he realized that his new wife had very different expectations about how they should live. She wanted to travel frequently and explore new places, while he preferred staying close to home and maintaining familiar routines. She was highly social and loved entertaining, while he treasured quiet time and solitude. While they genuinely cared for each other, they constantly struggled to find common ground, and Frank often felt like he'd lost some of the freedom and comfort he'd valued during his single years. Before you remarry, take serious time to reflect on what truly makes you happy right now. Do you want a traditional marriage where you share everything, or would you prefer companionship with plenty of personal space? Would you be happier living together or maintaining separate homes while keeping a committed relationship? There's no right or wrong answer here, only what feels right for you personally. The most important thing is to ensure that any decision you make supports your long-term happiness rather than disrupting the peace and fulfillment you've already built in your life. As we wrap up today's discussion, take a moment to really think about what we've covered. Remarrying after 60 can absolutely be a wonderful, life-enhancing experience, but it's also a decision that comes with important realities that too many people overlook until they're already dealing with the consequences. From financial considerations to family dynamics, emotional expectations, legal implications, and your own personal definition of what makes you happy, these are all factors that deserve careful thought before making such a significant life-changing commitment. The truth is, marriage at this stage of life isn't about following outdated traditions or doing what's expected. It's about making a choice that truly serves you and your well-being. Some people find incredible fulfillment in remarrying, while others realize they're happiest maintaining their independence or exploring different forms of companionship. The most important thing is that whatever path you choose aligns with your values, your lifestyle, and your long-term happiness. If today's discussion has given you something meaningful to think about, I encourage you to take your time before making any major decisions. Have those necessary conversations with your loved ones, seek proper financial and legal guidance, and most importantly, listen to your own needs and desires. There's absolutely no rush here. This stage of life is about embracing what makes you genuinely happy, not what others expect or what society tells you is normal. Thank you so much for spending this time with us today. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your own life. Your thoughts and experiences are incredibly valuable to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us tremendous motivation and encouragement to keep creating content that matters. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please give it a like, subscribe to our channel, and share it with anyone who might benefit from this information. Your support helps us continue creating quality content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in our next video.